Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you folks are doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your Monday and a fantastic start to that week of yours. Here to bring you the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Monday. Unfortunately, we do have significant severe weather to talk about. We have active weather ongoing right now. Some people are definitely waking up to a very active morning weather-wise across like sections of Mississippi, Alabama, and even like areas of like Louisiana. So this is kind of round one. There's going to be another kind of similar line of storms that's going to sweep in later this afternoon to this evening into the overnight hours across some of the same similar regions. And that will be a heavy topic in this video, as this next line of storms will bring a shot at significant severe winds, large hail, and even embedded tornadoes. So we need to figure this one out. And of course, we're going to get very detailed on that. We'll have everything time stamped out for you folks to take advantage of. And of course, we're not going to forget everybody else across the lower 48 also, and we'll cover your weather in detail for you folks. After we get done talking about all of that, we'll briefly go over the next couple days in regards to severe weather, talk about it just a little bit, but we won't touch on that very long. We're really just going to focus in on today's severe weather threat. I want to let you guys know if I do sneeze in the video, well, I think mowing the grass yesterday, I just kind of irritated my allergies or something. So that might happen. So the sneezes might make a return. Haven't had to deal with that and for about a few months now. I don't think I've sneezed in a video, but we'll see what happens with that. Very behind on comments, just like I say every single Monday morning. I'll catch up with everything later this afternoon if work permits, and just get caught up with all the prayer requests and just the discussions and everything y'all chattered about over the weekend. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we do have some rain moving across areas of Canada, Quebec, southern Ontario, and we do have some rain moving into the northern high plains, or the northern plains across eastern Montana. This will eventually make its way into North Dakota. Just some very isolated moisture scattered about in areas of the northern Rockies. We do have this little spin right here. I wouldn't say little, it's pretty large, and this is bringing some unsettled weather for Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, even southeastern sections of Nebraska. More rain for Iowa, more scattered in Missouri, and a little bit down here in Missouri and Arkansas also. But of course, this is where our most active weather is ongoing right now. Nasty line of storms sweeping across especially southern and southwestern sections of Alabama. Not quite down to Mobile. We'll see if the kind of shower and storm activity behind this kind of drapes down to Gulfport, Mobile, Alabama, eventually into the Panhandle, which I think it will later on this morning to the afternoon hours. And then more action will get going behind this. But this is what's going on right now. More of a shield of rain kind of moving into sections of Georgia. This will eventually creep into the southern sections of South Carolina later on today. And then the southwestern U.S., it continues just to be very quiet. It'll warm up pretty significantly today. Watches, warnings, and advisories. The entire northern tier of the lower 48 is quiet. Southern tier is pretty quiet too, except, for you folks in Texas, eastern Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi, and the Panhandle of Florida, where you do have severe storm warnings right now, flood watches, even some heat advisories for the far southern counties of Texas, where it's just going to get very warm. Cold fronts don't make it that far south this time of the year. I mean, they can, but not as often. But a lot of rain is going to fall in these areas. A lot of rain's falling right now. And speaking of rain and flooding, we do have in the red area, basically from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, over to southern, all the way up to Hattiesburg, all the way down to Gulfport, Mississippi, southern sections of Alabama, Mobile, all the way into the western Panhandle of Florida. Red area is at least a 40% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. Yellow area is a 15% chance of that, and we have two areas, one surrounding the red area down here, basically the Gulf coastline, and then one also up here in the Midwest. You guys could get a good bit of rain on top of all the rain you've already got over the last few weeks up here in the Midwest. So rain and flooding definitely is a storyline today for sure, so we got to be aware of that. And then we have the severe weather breakdown here. So this is the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. Just note some of this info could change, but we have the enhanced risk from south central Texas all the way to the Panhandle of Florida. and goes right through the heart of Louisiana and south central Louisiana. This could get extended all the way down to like the bayou of Louisiana later on, and just later outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. Covers extreme southern Mississippi, extremely southern Alabama, including Gulfport, Hattiesburg, Mobile, Alabama, all the way into, like I said, the western panhandle of Florida. Slight risk surrounding this. This goes all the way up to southern sections of Arkansas. So this is just a broad look at it. Just want to kind of cover all that. But let's take a more detailed look at this, just like we always do on the big day of a severe weather event. Enhanced risk, there it is. Not going to kind of re-mention all of that. But of course, there's many towns and cities that's in this that's not being shown. But you know, Lake Charles, Mobile, New Orleans, you might as well just include you, even though technically you're not in it. And the enhanced risk, I think this will get extended a little bit further south. But you know, Gulfport, Hattiesburg, Baton Rouge included in this, Houston, you're right on the fringe of it. I'm telling you, if you live like in San Antonio to Houston, there could be some nasty storms earlier in the day today. And then these storms basically will evolve into a really intense line of storms, but certainly could get really dicey later on this afternoon in this area of Texas. But this is the outlook. Slight risk extends a little bit further north, and then we got a marginal risk extending. You see this weird extension north into southern Missouri. I'll talk about this area later on in the video when we get to that section of the video. We could have a sneaky severe weather event that might evolve into more of a higher end, not a high end, higher end scenario than what this is showing. So we'll certainly watch out for that. But what is this driven off of? Tornado outlook, you know, it's nothing too crazy, but don't ignore it. In the Brown area, 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. And the storyline with this tornado threat for today is a line of storms will sweep through this region. We're going to break that down here in a second. And embedded in this line of storms, we're going to have most likely the chance for isolated rain-wrapped tornadoes. And of course, those are very dangerous. And it's going to get even more dangerous as the sun sets, which I think some of the most intense portions of this line will occur in areas after the sun sets. So it's going to get dangerous probably later this evening when this becomes a nocturnal thing. So don't ignore this just because it's at a 5%. Could get upgraded to a 10%. We'll have to see. But there is that 2% risk in the green, stretching all the way, almost all the way down to like the Space Coast, all the way up here into Arkansas, which has that sneaky tornado threat today. And then I could see this getting extended a little bit further west into eastern Texas. We'll see what happens there. But there's the tornado outlook. But, you know, it's no surprise that this is really driven off winds. So this is make sure it's not the hail outlook. Yep, the wind outlook. Red area, 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. In the yellow area, 15% risk of that. But one thing to note is, yep, it has the black dashes going in between the red area, black outline region, covering specifically that red area, 30% area. And what does that mean? Well, oh, here comes the sneeze. Okay, that means I got rid of it. That means there's a 10% chance of winds exceeding 75 miles per hour or higher. A chance of significant winds. We call this a hatched risk. So there is a shot at hurricane force winds, Category 1 hurricane force winds with some of these storms. And I think this will absolutely occur later on this afternoon into the overnight hours. This is going to be a nasty line of storms, guys. I'm going to probably say that about 1,000,000 times in this video. But the hail outlook definitely shifted a little bit further west, where I do think, especially in Texas, this will be more of a semi-discrete storm mode, individual storms, before it does evolve into more of a congealed line as it gets probably deeper into eastern Texas, Louisiana eventually. But in the red area, a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow area, I'm sorry, I think I said that right. The red area, 30%, excuse me. Yellow area, a 15% risk of that. Black outline region, chance of significant severe weather. In this case, it's hail. So if you live in the black outline region, you also have a 10% risk of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger, hatch risk of hail. So just remember, that's not 10 plus 30. That's just its own deal. It's not 10 plus 15. It's its own deal. So just always keep that in mind. So, all right, let's break this down. So we'll start off by looking at Texas, and then we'll go over to the deep south, and we'll even talk a little bit about Florida. So I do want to note there is some storms moving through eastern sections of Oklahoma right now. I don't think they're severe as of right now, but, you know, could be packing a punch. You guys let me know in eastern Oklahoma, eventually into Arkansas. as we start to get closer to noon, this is like 11 a.m. already, a lot of storm fuel down here. It's one thing we're not really going to talk much on the ingredients, but a lot of energy already building into this region where there'll be a lot of hot, humid air, which always puts that extra juice, higher CAPE levels in the atmosphere. So already, I mean, you're getting some nasty storms firing up before even lunchtime. These are drifting, could affect the San Antonio region. Who are these storms going to hit? You know, we're not quite sure, but whoever they do hit, it could be quite intense. This is around 1 p.m. If you're confused about the timeline, back this up 1 hour because this is in Eastern time, so we're in Central time, so this is technically 1 p.m. These storms will continue, and then they really explode right along the coastline of Texas around 3 p.m. So I do think the enhanced risk could get extended a little bit further south and maybe even west, especially into Texas and Louisiana. But this is what we have right now. HRRR model saying some very intense storms along and just off the coastline of Texas. Houston down to Victoria, Corpus Christi. Intense storms ongoing, large hail, damaging winds, isolated tornado threat. And then as we're starting to get to 4 p.m., starting to affect more of the Louisiana-Texas line, and these will continue. Could have some additional storms that might form back here in south central Texas, we'll see. But this is around 6 p.m., and the worst of the weather, by the time the sun sets, is pretty much moved off to the east. So I think this will really be an afternoon thing into the early evening for Texas. I mean, here's another look at this. Storms form out in south central Texas, and then they get really intense along the coastline here, central and northern coastline of Texas, and then they start to really slam folks in like Louisiana. But I will mention, if we look at some of the latest model guidance, let's see what this looks like. Let's look at the 09Z1, see what it looks like. I mean, it's about the same. I mean, it really is. There's no real huge difference with that. So I will note, updraft helicity swath. Now, I'm going to start saying this more when I show you guys this. This doesn't just indicate rotation in the atmosphere. It indicates also just, and this is really what it indicates, better updrafts. So you have stronger updrafts, taller updrafts, where you see these more highlighted colors. And of course, it's highlighted right where it showed all those storms. And let's go back to this. This is what I really want to look at here. So it really, obviously zooms into that area where the storms move in. So I want to mention, not only is, obviously this is where your tornadoes could be, but it also is what you watch out for large hail. Stronger, taller, larger updrafts indicate the chance of, more hail and larger hail. So where you see these areas, that's most likely in this particular model run where the highest chance of large hail is going to be. And you can see it south central Texas into the into the southeastern sections of Texas along the coastline of Texas. So this could be a little bit further south, a little bit further north. I could see more severe weather a little bit further north up here into eastern Texas. So don't ignore it if you live up here in eastern Texas. You guys could certainly get some severe weather. And there is some rotation with some storms to get going later on this afternoon in southern sections of Oklahoma. And we'll talk a little bit on that here in a second. But please be aware of that. Damaging winds with these storms also are very possible. And then you look at what's going on right now in the deep south. We already got, and this isn't for the storms later on, okay? This is for what's going on right now. These storms will continue, and they'll eventually kind of take more of a southeastern push to them. And it does show them around 10, 11 p.m. 10, 11 a.m. Storms kind of draping down to the Gulf coastline, maybe eventually affecting southeastern Louisiana. So it does show mid-morning Gulfport down to Mobile getting hit very hard by a line of storms that, could produce even an embedded spin up, damaging winds, and even some hail. But I think damaging winds will be the biggest threat with this. More of just moderate rain up here in central Alabama and eventually into western and central Georgia. But look at this bowing structure to it. I mean, if you live in the western panhandle of Florida around late morning, midday, lunchtime, early afternoon, be aware of a line of storms that's going to sweep through, because it could be pretty intense. Up here in Auburn, Columbus, Atlanta, just more of just a light to moderate rain, maybe at times heavy. But you see these storms right here just kind of training over one another, heavy rounds of rain behind this main line. This is where we could start to get some flooding issues in Gulfport, Mobile, western panhandle, Florida. And eventually this will trail off into in northern Florida. But what I want you to pay attention to is immediately after this kind of starts to head off to the east, this is around 3 p.m., look what's happening in Louisiana. Immediately right behind it, you get another area of storms that starts to develop. And look at all these pockets of red and pink. I mean, these are intense storms for southern Louisiana. You know, the southern flank of these storms, like I always mention, you got to worry about an isolated tornado. And even embedded in this convection, you got to worry about a tornado. You got to be aware of a tornado is the better word to put it. Just aware of any kind of tornado warnings, because you see how sloppy this convection is, meaning you just see red and yellow surrounding all the, the green and yellow surrounding all the reds and purples. That tells us this is not going to be some discrete, like, planes supercells. Individual supercells possible in this line, but just a messy convective look. And these can be dangerous, and you know, this is notorious for deep south kind of severe weather setups. So you continue to look at Louisiana, very active late this afternoon to this evening. A flooding threat will be there too. And look at this line of storms. And like I said, I do think this line of storms could be a little bit further north than what this is showing. But these are some pretty intense storms around 8 p.m. sweeping across southeastern Louisiana, southern sections, I'm losing my voice, southern sections of Mississippi, Mobile, Gulfport getting hit again after getting hit later on this morning, getting hit again later on tonight. This is around 10 p.m. And you see the most intense portion of these storms. I think this could be a little bit further north. Like I said, I know I keep saying that, into Alabama and Mississippi. So I really think that could be the case. And these storms will continue this around midnight, slamming the immediate Gulf coastline of Florida. And then these will sneeze trying to come to save its life, but I'm not going to let it. But got to sneeze when you got to sneeze, right? But 2 a.m., storms are sweeping across the panhandle of Florida, and eventually this energy will make it all the way to the entire state of Florida, the peninsula of Florida, later on tomorrow morning. But one thing I want to note here is if you look at the 09Z, I want you to notice how, let's go all the way to the end here. I want you to notice how at the very end of the run here, the line of storms, it looks like the more intense weather is a little bit further inland into Louisiana, into Mississippi and Alabama. All right, so it looks like this line of storms is like pushed a little bit further north. So, and I think that's why you do have the enhanced risk, you know, just a little bit off the shoreline. Now, once you get Alabama and Mississippi, enhanced risk is basically right up against the Gulf coastline. I am surprised, though, they don't have extended and pretty much covering all of southern Louisiana. And, I mean, I'm even surprised they don't have it all the way to the Gulf coastline here in Texas. So, a little bit surprised by that, but they know what they're talking about. We'll see if they'll upgrade that a little bit later today. But that updraft Felicity swath, folks, here it is. This is for this morning, right? You see all this area right here? This is for what happens this morning into early this afternoon, showing rotation with these storms. Just stronger updrafts, just indicates stronger storms. And a little bit of spin in these storms. But just because there's a spin, a broad rotation, that don't mean you have a tornado. Just means that there's a sign that these storms could be rotating. Now watch what happens behind this. You see these other areas that kind of fill into the south. This is what we watch out later on. Look at southern Louisiana. Isolated, embedded spin-ups, rain-wrapped tornadoes. You just got to pay attention to that kind of stuff. You guys got hit, what, like a month or so ago down here in Louisiana, southern Mississippi, with them embedded tornadoes. I forgot the town name down here. Man, it seemed like it was right there at me. But anyways, a town, I believe in Louisiana, got hit very hard. So it's going to be kind of a similar setup. And now I want to show you the wind gust depicted off of the HRRR model. This is for this morning. Just be aware, you know, down to Mobile, western panhandle, Florida, this morning into early this afternoon, you see this area winds. It's picking up on that line of storms right there. I mean, that's winds exceeding 50, 60, 70 miles per hour in that line of storms. Not sure if that'll be as intense as it actually ends up being, but we got to be aware of that. And then look at this line of storms behind it. You're starting to see very strong winds in southern Louisiana. That is with these storms that will get going later on this afternoon into this evening in this region. So, oh man, yeah, we're going to end up getting a sneeze before this video's over. I do apologize, guys, but this is about as raw as it gets. I don't edit anything out my videos or anything like that. But it seems like most people would rather me not do that anyways, rather it just be more of a personal feel. So a sneeze in the middle of a video is about as personal as it gets. So probably not, but anyways. I want to take a look at the latest H-R model. Notice it's a much more intense look to it as far as winds. This is around 7 p.m. Like, look around Lake Charles. I mean, that is pockets of 60, 70, 80 mile per hour winds embedded in this line of storms, sweeping across the Louisiana coastline, points a little bit further inland. And I mean, even as we start to get this line of storms closer to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, I mean, you still got pockets of winds approaching 60, 70 miles per hour. So I think this will continue to be the common theme as it heads into southern Alabama, southern Mississippi, and the panhandle of Florida throughout the overnight hours. Now, moving forward and looking at the rain, this is a big story too, guys. I mean, this is between now and Tuesday evening, right? Between both rounds of storms and any other convection in between. All right, anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain in this area right here of southeastern Louisiana, extreme southern Mississippi, same thing with Alabama, and the panhandle of Florida. Lot of rain expected. More just normal amounts up here. Down here, a lot of rain. I mean, they're going for 6 inches of rain in Mobile. Okay, so that's a lot of rain. So go on and expect street flooding. Don't drive through it. You guys should know that. I think we're all taught that at a very young age when it comes to weather. Just kind of a thing that should be known a little bit more out there because you still see videos of people driving through it. But just be aware of this. Flooding is likely going to be a storyline down here in the southern Gulf states for sure. So I do want to talk about Florida really quick. Here comes that first line of storms. Man, if you're in the panhandle of Florida, I'm telling you, nasty line of storms later this morning to early this afternoon. I do think this will lose some steam, but I do think some storminess is likely later this afternoon in northern Florida. More just widespread rain across the panhandle of Florida after this main line moves in. A lot of heavy rain showing up also in southern sections of Georgia. These could be storms too. And then this will continue to try to pop off some additional convection later on, deeper into the peninsula of Florida. And then you see the line of storms behind it that will kind of blast through the Gulf states later tonight. And this will greet you guys across the panhandle of Florida probably from midnight onward. And like I said, could be intense. And I do think it'll lose some intensity as you get into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. But we do have a lot of storm activity tucked into the kind of the armpit of the Gulf of Mexico. I like to call it the northeast sections of the Gulf. So we'll see what happens as these storms continue to rumble towards the peninsula of Florida later on tomorrow morning. But that's a severe weather update for what's going to happen today potentially. Let's talk about everybody else. The rest of the southeast, we've already talked about all the storms. I do think we'll get some just widespread light to moderate rain across the southern half of South Carolina, especially some isolated showers, scattered showers across the southern Alps region. And then we could, and there's that line of storms firing behind this, okay, that we already talked about. And then just scattered showers into the late kind of overnight hours, scattered across the west and the east side of the Appalachian Mountains. More so, heavier rain, showers and storms along the Mississippi River points west and east. And we could have some storm activity in Arkansas, Missouri. And then we will continue to move this forward. And then I do think later on tonight, to the wee hours of the morning, we're going to just have scattered showers and thunder showers across the Carolinas. We're waking up to all the way up into Virginia. Could be waking up to a line of storms, broken line of storms in northern Mississippi, the western sections of Tennessee, and Kentucky up here as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Northeast, pretty quiet start. It's pretty much spring up here. Is just the common theme weather-wise has just been showers. Just a lot of shower activity throughout the spring. And, today will be no different. Scattered sprinkles, light rain throughout New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. And so eventually we'll drift into Maine. Could get more heavier bursts of rain in areas of New York, as you can tell right here, Watertown, Syracuse, later on tonight. And this will continue just to really affect the northern sections of New England. But could get all the way to the down east areas of Maine as we're waking up tomorrow morning. And then we'll have more rain that will enter the picture. Another round coming up from the south and southwest to start your Tuesday morning. So that's pretty much the storyline for the Northeast today, just scattered showers. It'll remain pretty much tucked into the northern sections of New England throughout the day today and tonight. Today, as far as storms in the south central U.S., we've already mentioned Texas, but I do want to mention the low forming in this region. Up into here, you see these widely scattered areas of red and yellow and orange here in eastern Kansas, even Oklahoma, up here in Missouri, and eventually you'll see it become much more widespread in Arkansas. This is associated with the immediate low area of low pressure, and there could be an isolated spin up with these, especially more so in Arkansas, maybe southern Missouri. A little bit of moisture might make it up here to provide enough thermodynamics for a little tornado threat. We'll see what happens, but I don't expect anything crazy or anything like that, but it's very possible. So, be aware of that, I guess you would say, but there could be definitely some hail with these because more cooler air aloft up here associated with the immediate trough. But these will spin around. I'm telling you, like I said, Arkansas, just be aware of these right into here. Okay, really anywhere in Arkansas. Boot Hill, Missouri, southern Missouri. And eventually, as we get closer to midnight, just widespread rains across the Mississippi Valley region, pretty much grinding up the Arkansas, Mississippi, western Tennessee, all the way into the Boot Hill, western Kentucky, southern Illinois line, where all these states kind of get very close to each other, I guess you would say. And this could actually bring some heavier rain overnight in these areas. And then we get all the way into Tuesday morning and quieter conditions settling in for the south central U.S. Up here in the north central U.S., I would say a big theme today is showers. It really is, and just rain. But here comes that low. This will kind of re-amp the atmosphere again for more showers and storms potential here in southern Iowa. Scattered downpours, I think, is the better term to put it, across areas of Illinois, northern Missouri. And then we start to get this into this evening. Could get some showers across Chicago, northern Indiana, eventually drifting into the lower sections of Michigan. And, definitely widespread rains potentially and downpours potentially settling in after midnight tonight across areas of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, as you can tell down here. Waking up tomorrow morning to some shower activity in Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Louisville, points north especially. So that's the next 24 hours of weather for you folks. So western U.S., pretty quiet, folks. I mean, there's not a whole lot to really talk about, to cover, except once again, some showers could get going up here in the northern Rockies regions, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. I would say the western sections of the Dakotas, even maybe western Nebraska, maybe even down to Colorado could get a shower or two. And these will kind of drift through, but not a big system at all by any means, with just an area of lower pressure beginning to ooze out of Canada into the lower 48. This will just bring some showery weather throughout the next 24 hours up into here, eventually leading into our Tuesday too. So not a whole lot. Montana, just scattered showers. Quiet in the southwest. Temperatures today kind of splotchy, right? I mean, you get these pockets of cooler weather down here. It's warmer in the Ohio Valley. This is because of a lot of cloud cover and rain-cooled air. There's a good chance that some of these areas will warm up a little bit more than what it's showing. But Texas will be Texas too. Texas will get very warm, but Florida will be a scorcher today ahead of this line of storms. 90s, upper 90s, high humidity, very uncomfortable. It's like you're right in the middle of summer already in Florida. But pretty comfortable conditions actually in the Northeast, considering we do have these rain showers. So you can tell you're starting to get away from winter's grasp up here that likes to hang on, forever in this area of the country. Warm conditions in the Ohio Valley and the areas of the Midwest, 70s and 80s, very comfortable across the plains. And then the western U.S., I mean, it's pretty nice across everywhere. I mean, even where you're going to get these showers in Montana today, it'll still warm up into the 70s and 80s, especially in the lower elevations. Very warm in the southwest. You're starting to get into the low 100s, so it's getting closer to the depths of summer, I guess you would say. But Storm Prediction Center is a risk of strong to severe storms tomorrow across the immediate southeast region. This could upgrade to a slight risk. We'll try to figure that one out, but all in all, I don't expect it to be a big day, but there is a risk of thunderstorms for pretty large areas of the country out here across the central and west in the eastern U.S., so we'll try to figure that one out. There is a low-end tornado threat along the immediate southeast coastline areas of the Gulf Coast, pretty much from Wilmington all the way to Tampa, all the way back over to the panhandle of Florida. So we'll watch that, see if it uptrends, but as of now, I'm not really concerned. And then there'll be a lingering severe weather threat for Wednesday across areas of Florida and the Eastern Carolinas. And then we'll have to watch our next system across the Southern Plains. Could bring a severe weather risk across Oklahoma and Texas. But we'll figure that one out as it comes. I'm not anticipating anything too crazy severe weather-wise. I think today might be the biggest day of the week. But we'll see. You know, that can change very quick. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you again soon.